2 years ago, we gave a Rubiks Cube to Julie, our youngest daughter, for Christmas. She'd been asking for it for months. And I used to think that the only way to solve a Rubiks Cube was either just pure sheer luck, you just move pieces enough and it somehow will solve itself, or when I was younger, take the stickers off and put them where they need to go. It was like magic to try to solve this thing. I knew, a part of me knew there's a method to it, obviously, because people who are good at it can do it, but I could not figure it out. And so in thinking about New Year's resolutions, the thing that I decided to do that Christmas was to try to figure out how to solve the Rubiks Cube. And over Christmas, I did it. The funny thing about New Year's resolutions is that only 8% of all New Year's resolutions are actually kept. I don't know who comes up with those numbers, but those are the numbers. And they tell us that 80% of all New Year's resolutions are broken by February. So don't even last 6 weeks, and New Year's resolution is gone, which I found interesting. In the article I was reading about that, it talked about 3 of the key things in helping raise that statistic so that you can actually have a better chance at keeping your New Year's resolutions. One of those things was to make addition goals instead of subtraction goals. And so that looks like instead of saying I want to watch less TV or I don't want to be lying on the couch as much or whatever, you come up with another goal. What do you want to replace that with? What do you want to do? And so if that's I want to walk more or I want to read more, then that's your goal. You add I want to read more or I want to walk more. And so an addition goal instead of a subtraction goal. The second thing that they say you do is that you set tangible, trackable goals that you can easily measure. So one of the things that a lot of people do when they set a resolution is that, let's take reading. I want to read more. Okay, well, reading more. What does that look like? Where's the measurable goal in that? Somebody might say, well, I want to read 20 books this year. Well, that's a good goal, but that's hard to track and measure. Are you actually on target to read 20 books? Until you realize it's November and I've only read 3 books. There's no way I'm going to read 20 books this year. A better goal, they say, if you want to read more, is to say, I want to read 30 minutes a day. I want to add that into my life. I want to read 30 minutes a day. And so you replace something else and you can track it. Did I read 30 minutes today? And you can track how well you're doing. Did I do more days where I'm reading 30 minutes or not? And so you can track it. The other thing that they say is important is to tell somebody, which I found interesting. And the reason I think it's important to tell somebody is because it gives you that accountability. Even though the person themselves may not hold you accountable, the fact that you voiced that to somebody else, in the back of your mind, you've spoken it, and therefore now you have to take it seriously because you've told someone else. And it helps you to solidify in your own mind what you want to do and how you're going to go about that. And so I found those 3 things really interesting. And this is a great place to start this year. Just like learning the specific maneuvers on a Rubik's Cube, and there are specific maneuvers. This is the thing I learned. There's specific maneuvers you need to learn to do, and that's a way that you can solve it. And so just like learning the specific maneuvers, or just like learning how to be more effective in keeping a New Year's resolution, there's things that we can do to help us in our relationship with Jesus. One of the words that we use for those things are spiritual disciplines. It's an ancient practice. Many types of spiritual disciplines. Fasting is a type of spiritual discipline. Silence is a type of spiritual discipline. Solitude is a type of spiritual discipline. Prayer is a spiritual discipline. Giving is a spiritual discipline. And so there are some of these things that we're called to do to move some of the other pieces out of the way in our lives, to maneuver the pieces around in such a way that we get closer to solving what we want it to be like. And so one of the things that we want to encourage you in 2022 is to be intentional this year in when you're making your resolutions, ask the Holy Spirit, what is it He's asking you to be doing this year to be more intentional in your walk with Him? Maybe it's more intentional in prayer. Maybe it's more intentional in taking time to turn off the TV and open up the Bible a little bit. Maybe it's to be more intentional to get in His presence, to hear from Him, to learn to hear His voice. Or maybe it's in some of the more traditional spiritual disciplines, such as fasting or giving. We don't want to give you a formula this year in what you need to do. What we want to do is to encourage you. Talk to the Holy Spirit this week. Take intentional time today. Spend a few minutes with Him and ask Him, Lord, what is it you have for me this year? What is it you're asking me to do to help move the pieces around, to bring things back into shape in my life the way you want to shape me so that I can be with you and be like you?